The Jim and Terry Show, still coming to you from the Hobbit Hole Studio. That's our cheap effects. Thank you, Jim. We can't afford the budget, so we make up our own.
And that was the worst sounding incoming bomb I've ever
I
done.
don't know. It was pretty good to me. Maybe I could pan it left to right. And have it. Okay, we're talking about things that are still scary, and we're following it up with the NATO meeting, with the EU meeting, with Carney in Europe, with Trump going to Europe, with, maybe some follow-up discussion on what happened with the big bombing of the Iran facilities and any fallout, not to...
No pun intended. Actually, total pun intended.
Gallows humor, my friend. It's a sad state of affairs when all we got is humor that makes fun of death and dying and misery.
Well, the attack on the Iranian thing, just really quick to get that out there, should send a message to the world, even though I'm kind of mad at the whole political scene down in the United States. That was a pretty impressive strike, going in there with the help of their ally, Israel. We said it earlier in the last show, Israel actually prepared the way so that those bombers could come in undetected. If Israel hadn't have gone in first and taken out their ability to see the sky, then they would have been detected.
Okay, let me ask you this. That's the Iran situation with Israel.
Yeah.
And it's sort of do or die in a hypothetical. If Iran gets the bomb, they will use it to blow up Tel Aviv or nuke Israel. Just a question of relative urgency. Why isn't the U.S. and Israel approach to Russia in Ukraine the same sense of urgency? Why aren't they taking out all of Russia's early warning systems? Why aren't they taking out the Russian nuke sites? Why aren't they taking out any of these things? Why is Ukraine still being bombed with some of the most destructive damage of public buildings, apartments, education centers, hospitals, transportation? A train was bombed by a hypersonic missile. Why is that still going on?
Because I don't think that the United States has given Ukraine any Patriot missiles. You know, the Patriot system
Zelensky
that
was
is
in
really...
NATO asking for the Patriot.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it was a Ukrainian journalist who I saw on a clip this morning, who asked a woman whose husband is in the Ukraine forces on the front line, and she asked Trump at the conference at NATO,
I saw that.
are you going to give us Patriots?
Yeah.
And he actually sounded reasonable.
Well, he said, I see your sorrow. You know, I can see that. And I went,
I
could see it on her face, too.
But I've never heard Trump have that moment of...
He's got these moments. He's schizophrenic. I'm telling you.
Jeez.
He has these moments. And this is probably the guy you see in the back rooms. You go, he's just a wonderful guy.
Add that to his pathological narcissism.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, what a combination.
He's a mess.
He is.
But that was the first time I realized, why haven't they got Patriot missiles? Because, unfortunately, there's not enough of them to go around. Well, isn't this
I'm not
where
sure
you
about
make the
that
money
answer.
in war? You make more defense and more bombs and everything else. So I don't know why that's been held back, other than Putin has told Trump flat out, do not give them Patriot missiles. And Trump keeps saying all the thousands of people are dying, was just like you said. Okay, find a way. The quickest way to end that war is probably to just get one missile to land in Moscow.
Yes.
One.
Yep.
And then the people may say, where'd that come from? You know, because right now they're outside of the danger. Mm-hmm. They're never going to read the million soldiers that have died. They're never going to read that because they're not allowed to tell the public that.
Question, would you there's a big movement now to rearm Europe. That's, I think, the name of the policy that the EU is agreeing to. Rearm Europe is that, it's sort of related to the NATO 5%. Everybody's going to commit to rebuilding their domestic military industries. That's a long-term commitment. That's like 10 years worth of rebuilding, investing, and making weapons. My question is, why wouldn't you want the war in Ukraine? Why wouldn't you want the Russians to end it now? And why not do it now? Why is this going on? And why are Ukrainian people suffering?
Well,
Who made that choice?
I think Trump is the one that's making that choice. And I think that's why. Let's get to this.
You're blaming Trump for the indecisions and the lack of commitment?
No. The United States is the most powerful nation on the earth. And puts fear in the blood and the veins of any adversary. Europe doesn't at this time. Trump thinks he's toting this great big victory that he went to the UK, NATO. He went to NATO, and NATO's increasing their budget. I don't believe it's for him at all.
No.
I believe it's to go alone.
Yes.
I don't believe you can trust the United States. Not the
okay.
people, we love you, but it's your government cannot be trusted. Even as our prime minister said, you betrayed us, and he did. And he'll betray you. He'll betray you again.
Right.
He will do that. And Europe's thinking the same. So let Trump pound his chest and say, this is what I did. I've increased NATO's budget. No, they're increasing it because you are absent
Yes.
in your mind.
Yeah.
You're absent from this. You're the one that now is saying NATO's important. Now, first time you ever really talked to
Did
anybody.
he actually say that?
He did.
That NATO was important?
I think he did. I think he
Wow,
did.
that's after 8 years of saying,
Well,
get
it's the
out of
first time
NATO.
he's ever looked. It almost sounded like it was the first time he ever talked to anybody.
Did somebody give him meds before
No,
that NATO
I,
trip?
I think
Because
what
he
it-
was off his rocker at the G7 in
I think-
Kananaskis.
I think NATO has played him. That's my opinion. Trump has been played like Putin's played him.
So you mean that because the EU, Canada, NATO all got together without Trump,
Yep.
Trump realized he was the odd man out?
No, I think they're playing him. They're saying let him think whatever he wants to
I
think.
heard, was it Ruta who said "Daddy"? Do you recall that?
Yeah, that was kind of played.
It was played,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
it was there. It was put out there. So
and now Daddy, that was kind of gross.
it was.
Here's what I mean by I think playing Trump. Trump wants to be flattered. He wants to be the king. He wants to be the guy who stands there for an hour bad-mouthing media and everything else. He's just weird.
He wants to do whatever he wants to.
And everything, I mean, Israel and Iraq war, which isn't over, but he can
No.
say it's over. He did that. And if it starts again, it won't be him, you understand. It's probably the Biden regime that caused that. So in NATO, I believe they got together ahead of time, just like Canada was over there for the EU, might have got together with a few of the NATO organizations as well. And they've come to the conclusion, yes, we can't rely on the United States. Maybe right now we can, but we can't. The direction they've gone now is they're lying to the media, they're lying to the people, they're becoming a dictatorship or oligarch country. That is a fact. That's right in your face. There's no denying it. They're arresting people off the street, people who have done nothing. That was so un-American, it was out of this world. Now they're doing it willy-nilly, going into grade schools and grabbing kids. They're really sick. And that's all because of the Trump and now his people who have already proven they're lawless. So they're going to do anything to maintain that power as Republicans. And I think NATO and any intelligent leader of any other country, like our Carney, who's intelligent, knows it. We've been betrayed. That regime betrayed us, and we've got to go it alone. We'll pretend we're with them, but we've got to go it alone because out of the president's own mouth, he's said it more than once. Our allies may not always be our allies.
Yeah, that's what he said about the F-35s and
Yeah.
buying them from Trump. So what a bad mistake that was. Talk about gaffes.
Yeah.
His presidency is fraught with untruths, lies, deliberate miscalculations, misinformation, and he's unreliable. NATO realizes, the EU realizes it, whatever other allies exist realize it. So what has Trump done to America and its place in the world?
Well, he's ruined it I think the trust in the United States has gone for 50 years, easy 50 years.
50.
I think you'd have to be a fool.
So it's not going to be the
put your
next
trust.
routine, the next regime, the next next
No,
regime.
you can't trust them either.
You can't trust whoever
Well, the
comes in
generals
after
have
Trump.
the generals have been removed. Everybody in leadership's been removed. You've got a stacked
Judiciary.
judiciary. It's stacked.
Yep.
Everything's been removed. To trust any leadership that comes out into the United States now would be foolish. You'd be stupid. So if that's coming from little Jim in a bunker, I'm sure the leaders are saying, okay, this is the new reality of this world. And it'll probably bring it to world war.
So it's not going to be an easy turnaround for the United States. So the bigger questions are, how does the United States rebuild global trust? They were able to do it rather quickly with Biden on the heels of one 4-year term.
Yeah.
It wasn't nearly as destructive. or as venomous, as bitter, as antagonistic, as lawless, as corrupt as this term 2.0 of Trump.
Here's what you're dealing with, Terry, in the United States. Obama made a deal with Iran that Americans could inspect all of their nuclear facilities. You don't want more than that. Trump comes in, rips that up. So you can't trust him for any agreement, agreement.
No.
Trump has ripped up our relationship. He's ripped up relationships all over the world. You cannot trust him.
No.
So he's ripped that up so that he can have a war, so that he can blame Biden for the war that Biden stopped, really. Israel went into Iran because that agreement was ripped up. Trump caused that war, and now he's taking credit for ending it.
He's taking credit the Trump way. How can he make money off of this too?
Yeah, no one's making a fortune.
Jim and Terry Show, signing off. Bye-bye.
The sweat of my brow and the toil of my hands has got me so far into this promised land.